This programme will receive will...
Now on BBC One in the West, a special programme on the Bristol mayoral election with Alex Lovell and David Garmston.
In just over a week, history will be created when Bristol elects its first mayor.
After years of debate, Bristol is to have a new leader, following in the footsteps of London, Liverpool and Nottingham.
The winner faces some big challenges, but 14 men and 1 woman think they're the right person for the job.
So stay with us. In the next half hour, we're going to meet every one of them and we're going to get to hear their views.
The big question, though, which one will you pick to run this great city?
The old city of Bristol is waking up to a new era.
Built around the River Avon, it's a vibrant city filled with character and history.
Busy, complex, challenging.
The new mayor will be in charge of the West's biggest economy.
The docks are now a centre of heritage and culture.
Always on the move, always changing. Night and day, bustling, buzzing.
Whoever wins this contest will need to think big and bold, but most of all, think Bristol.
Hello and welcome to a special edition of BBC Points West. We're at the Council House in Bristol where all the big decisions about this city are made. Now, next Thursday, that's the 15th, 320,000 of us will have the chance to vote for the first directly elected mayor.
It's hoped the new leader will be a champion, fighting for Bristol on the national and international stage. But can the city learn to punch above its weight? Here's Will Glennon.
The people of Bristol have decided they want a new champion. Someone who will go the distance for the city. What does it take to even step into the ring? Let alone win the fight. Bristol is a city of over 400,000 people. It's England's 8th biggest. It has its own special character. And now, those who live within the city's boundaries are going to vote for a new mayor. So what's the job of mayor? Did you see the ad in the paper? Actually, there wasn't one. What about the job description? There wasn't one of those either, not an official one anyway. What we do know about the elected mayor is that they'll replace the council leader here on College Green. They'll set major policies on transport, housing, culture and regeneration. What they can't do is grant planning permission. Big projects like a new arena or a football stadium, the mayor can back them but can't enact them. And in the area of education and schools, the mayor only has limited powers. Just how will this fight shape up then? The best way to see what the mayor might do is to look at other cities. Bristol's not the first place to get an elected mayor, it's actually the 17th. London went first with Ken Livingstone in the year 2000. Hi Ken, hi.
Welcome.
Nice to see you.
Have a seat.
Thanks very much. If someone can give us insight and advice, maybe it's Ken.
Well, I had a wonderful time. I had 8 years in which we turned London round, we rebuilt the police service, the bus service, we got a whole load of big projects going like the Olympics and so on.
What kind of things make a good mayor? What characteristics would somebody need?
They need to be honest, otherwise you're really going to be in trouble. They've also got to think long term. The key to cities like Bristol and London is, can you get investment in from outside? Can you get firms that bring jobs? If they're not a strong character, it's going to be a disaster. If you bend with every sort of little breeze that's coming, you'll never get anything done.
And there's lots to do. Not least the first job for the mayor, to find £25 million worth of budget cuts. While Mayor of London may seem a glamorous job, for the Bristol mayor it's going to be about the difficult everyday decisions, the care homes, the meals on wheels, the picking up of the bins. There are so many issues to address, so many areas to tackle, and everyone will have their own idea of what needs to be done first. It's a tough job, but someone's got to do it, so who's going to fit the bill? Well, if you've got a vote, it's you who'll decide.
So that's the job, and there are 15 men and women who think that they can do it. Now, throughout this programme, we're going to meet all of the candidates, and just so it's fair and square, they'll appear in alphabetical order, and each of them will have around 30 seconds to tell us why they deserve your vote.
I'm standing to oppose austerity, to oppose the attacks upon our living standards being made in order to pay for a crisis caused by big bankers and the super rich. And all the main parties support this agenda, but I don't. If I was elected, I'd move a budget based upon protecting the services that people in this city rely upon and campaigning to win back the funding that's been stolen from us by the condemned government. I'm standing to provide a voice for ordinary people, and that starts with me, if elected, only taking the average wage of a worker in the city.
If I was your mayor, I would like to help the youth projects by doubling the numbers by the time I finish. I would also like to help committed families. They don't have to be married by paper, but if you're committed, I would like to help you with your council tax. I would also like to help people on benefits. I think it's wrong to outlaw people who are on benefits, whether you're old or young. And the other thing I would love to do is give a bit more enthusiastic, a bit more commitment towards voting. Be a pebble in a pond by putting no confidence on your voting ticket.
My manifesto is called Delivering Prosperity for Bristol. I will fight to save Filton Airfield because we cannot allow our runway to close for the sake of our aircraft manufacturing and aviation industries. I also want a modern electric LRT system and integrated transport authority. I will also lobby Westminster for a true Greater Bristol Authority which includes Filton, the North Fringe and the urban parts of Kingswood.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dave Dobbs. I'm running for the birthday party. I'm running for Bristol Mayor. If you vote for me, I will give the 60% of power that you're going to give away to a single person, a mayor, which is basically feudalism. I will give that power back to you and float the whole thing on social networks. That will be proportional representation given back to you. I won't make the decisions, you will. Thank you.
None of us is getting any younger, and homes like this one at Stoke Bishop and Bristol provide a vital service for the elderly and their relatives. Now, ahead of the mayoral elections, the BBC has commissioned a special survey in conjunction with Comres to find out what people actually want from the new mayor. 500 people were questioned, and right at the top of their list of priorities was care for the elderly and of vulnerable people. Sally Challoner reports.
It's the biggest single expense for Bristol City Council. Care of elderly and vulnerable adults costs nearly £127 million a year, and that bill will just go up as the population ages. It's already putting pressure on City Council funding. Now 8 of its care homes and 7 daycare centres are being closed, most of the work going instead to the private sector and charities. That's focused the minds of practically all the candidates who want to be mayor.
They'll have demands made of them by the government that these cuts need to be made. And the choice is, do you go along with that and essentially do the government's dirty work, or do you stand up for the people that have elected you, for the people of Bristol, and say, no, we should not pay for a crisis that we didn't cause, particularly the eldest, the most vulnerable, shouldn't be the ones that have to pay, and we're going to stand up and we're going to stop these attacks.
Other candidates, Philip Fevre, Daniela Radici, Tim Collins, Stoney Garnett, also say they'd review or reverse the cuts. The trouble is that the council-run homes are old and no longer fit for purpose. This is Coombe in Westbury-on-Trim. It used to house 30 residents, but it's closing soon. The 12 residents that are still here are currently being assessed to see what care they need, and that'll determine where they go next when this place closes in a couple of years' time. The staff here, though, say it'll all be handled very sensitively. So, for example, if a resident has a particular attachment to a chair or a painting or a lamp, they'll be able to take that with them. But that's not good enough for Neil Maggs, who wants to see all social care provided by the council.
Privatisation hasn't worked. It's been an utter disaster in many areas, particularly in healthcare, and that is why, as Mayor, I will reverse those policies. The care homes will stay open, the day centres will stay open, we'll invest in council-run care for people.
But some say modern homes like this, run by a charity, can be better.
We've got some absolutely superb not-for-profit care homes and day services. Just because it's not run by the council doesn't mean that it can't be absolutely top quality. And certainly my experience is that we will be absolutely determined to deliver top quality services. Our residents deserve the very best, and they will continue to get the very best.
Independent candidate George Ferguson also believes in a move away from expensive council-run homes, investing in good community care. It's not just care homes that have been hit hard. The council's also cut funding for voluntary groups by 11% over the past 2 years. That's £4.5 million. This daycare centre has lost all of its direct council funding, £80,000. It's trying to fundraise, but may have to close next year.
I think that would be wicked, absolutely wicked, because, as I say, they all look forward to coming, and they play games, and we have dances and keep fit, and I think it would be so sad.
You know, if you're not feeling very well, you can come here, eat and sit quietly, and you know you're going to have a good meal. Well, if you're not too well, and they fetch you and take you home, which is good, or if they close, I really don't know what I'd do.
So how could a mayor provide for the most vulnerable while balancing the books?
Not saying there's any magic wands here, there aren't. But a big part of the mayor's role is going to be about getting our local economy going. Not just approaching this as isolated parts of the city, not just the city council, not just the health service, not just the police, and not just the private sector working alone, but saying how do we bring the different parts of the city together to meet these challenges in which we all have a vested interest.
We should be much more trustful of the voluntary and community sector, who are so committed to the job they do that we shouldn't need an enormous bureaucracy to check up on what they do. And I would rather see in the City Council more of the money we're spending going on front-end services and less on bureaucracy and administration.
If we're to leave behind the old-fashioned image of care for something altogether more modern, the new mayor really will be taking some difficult decisions.
As your mayor, not a party mayor, I shall put Bristol first and work with you, free of party politics and cynical manifesto promises, and restore pride in this city. I asked you to judge me on my record of making things happen. Let's have real change and give Bristol the strong, decisive leadership it needs. I have a 7-point vision, starting with making Bristol great. See it all on bristolfirst.com. Vote George Ferguson on November the 15th. And get Bristol working.
I think it's time to take back a slice of the manufacturing industry, starting with Bristol. This will give a massive boost to the local economy, the social growth, and throws Bristol right into the mix of ethical investment. We can compete on a global scale, I think, using a new business model, and we can see us having made quality goods without costs spiralling out of control. So let's stop importing things that we can easily make ourselves. With council support and some national grants, I think the first of the enterprises can be producing goods in the shops within 6 months, made in Great Bristol.
Hello, my name is Stoney Garnett. I'm running for the elected Mayor of Bristol, And the reason I think you should vote for me is because I've lived in Bristol all my life and I think I know what Bristolian people need in Bristol. I would like to keep the care homes open for the people of Bristol. Also, I like free stadiums, a Bristol City Stadium, a Bristol Rovers Stadium, and also a proper arena for music. Not only that, I think we should sort this transport out because I was coming here today by bus and it took me ages.
I will review council-owned property and introduce a short let scheme for all empty buildings, provide free 2 hours parking citywide to allow local independents to compete, and stop new impediments to traffic, discourage the supermarket locals taking over our high streets, encourage events large and small and reduce the paperwork involved, push for a private sector funded arena, reduce council interference, and allow small local firms to bid for council contracts. I will set up a text poll to keep in touch with all the people of Bristol. I will deliver strong direction, accountability and long-term practical solutions.
It may be a beautiful city, but as it's grown, so too has the congestion on the road. So it won't surprise you to know that many people who took part in our survey want the new mayor to get a grip on transport.
Tickets please, and budge up. Yes, over the years there have been plans for a new light rail transit system or a tram, and they want to reopen some of the old train lines into the city, but in truth not much has happened and we're still on the bus.
We certainly are. So which road is the new mayor going to go down? Here's Charlotte Callan.
Bristol is the UK's first cycling city, but it's the car that dominates our roads.
Bristol has one of the slowest traffic speeds anywhere in Europe. Ticket prices on our buses and trains have been going up and up. We don't have Sheffield's Supertram or Tyne and Wear's Metro. To commuters, it may feel like we've been left behind. So what can the new mayor do to get Bristol moving?
Experts say the route the mayor should take is clear. Get people out of their cars and onto public transport.
This is a problem which took a generation to create and will probably take a generation to solve. What you really need is a mayor who can set out a long-term strategy and who has the vision and who is willing to accept that the benefits of what they do may well bear fruition under a successor.
For years, little's moved in sorting out congestion, and then, like the buses, the ideas all come at once.
We need to invest in repairing the rail structure. Rail is a great way of getting people out of their cars.
The Bristol Metro, this incredible railway network that we've got around the city, that's been just laying dormant for the last 30 years.
My wife the other day got on a bus outside our house in Easton, paid £3.30 with our 2 children, 4 and 2-year-old, to go 3 stops. Her comment to me was, I'm not going to do that again. We've got to get beyond that.
In London, you have £1.30 bus fares, and London's a much, much bigger place. Frankly, we can do it for £1.50.
Compared to other areas, Bristol spends a lot less money on transport, which is why it's so bad.
And the ideas don't stop there. Just take a flick through the candidate's official booklet and it reads like a menu fit for any good transport cafe. For starters, maybe you'd like a few more river taxis. Or you could go for Spud Murphy and his idea to scrap some of our 20-mile-an-hour speed limit zones. Rich Fisher, well, he'd introduce a few more cycle racks. Then there's Philip Pover and Owain George, who say they'd scrap some bus and cycle lanes. And maybe for dessert, you could go for Respect and Neil Magg's promise to bring back the Bristol Bus Company.
Money has already been earmarked for rail links, the new metro, for new bus routes and the South Bristol Link Road. But even these projects will need some careful steering to make sure the money is spent wisely. And any plans for cheaper fares and travel cards, well, they could prove costly at a time when budgets are squeezed. But would any candidate openly admit to some more unpopular ideas?
You cannot solve the problem of too much car traffic and too much congestion without causing some inconvenience to some motorists. Now, in the longer term, if you look at the sort of European cities that have cracked this problem, conditions for motorists are actually a lot better. But the voters have to accept that some things will get worse in the short term if they are to get better in the long term.
Then there's the political problem for Bristol and the never-ending roundabout of discussion, more discussion, and then missing the turning. The new mayor, like the council, will need more than a little help from their neighbouring authorities to get anything done. Because with all forms of transport, they don't stop when they pass the city boundaries.
I'm an independent, I am very strong, I am very prepared to talk to anybody, and I think that I do believe that I can that I can enthuse the local authorities to realising that there is a better way forward.
But if talking fails, and it's proved tricky up until now, well, they could go to government and ask for more formal powers.
For me, it's Transport for Bristol powers, like Transport for London. Boris Johnson can currently set the fares, he can set the routes and he can set the frequency, and I want those same powers here in Bristol.
With the Transport Authority, we can actually employ some experts for the whole region, experts in rail, experts in buses, experts in walking and cycling. You can actually have a really good strategic approach, and I think that's what's been lacking.
The most important thing for the mayor is the direction of change. If anybody says vote for me and I will sort out Bristol's transport problems in a 4-year term, then I would be very suspicious of that person.
Getting Bristol moving is a top priority in this election, but delivering on those promises, well, that could be a long and windy road to navigate.
I present a real opportunity for change from the parties that have been running Bristol for decades. My Bristol will be a thriving Bristol, offering jobs and housing for all. A caring Bristol that looks after the people who are most in need. It'll be an inclusive Bristol that gives opportunities for all, and a mobile Bristol that people can actually afford to travel to the places they want to get to. My Bristol will be a common sense Bristol where the mayor uses the expertise of the business, voluntary and community sector to get the best for the city.
I'm Neil Maggs, I'm the Respect Party anti-cuts candidate. I'm opposed to all privatisation and I will reverse the recently announced closures of day centres and care homes. My 3 priorities are jobs, homes and transport. I will bring back the direct labour organisation, employing skilled tradesmen and young apprentices, refurbishing the many empty properties that there are around Bristol. This will also bring down the housing stock. Let's get Bristol back to work and let's start putting people before profit.
I'd like to be Mayor of Bristol so I can put some common sense into the job and make it so that people, old people in Bristol, everyone gets a warm bed, a warm house, 2 meals a day and a day out a week. And for the traffic, I'd like to see the roundabout in the centre turned back to as it was, where the traffic goes the proper way round and all the streets that are closed off to it open so that the traffic don't congest in the middle of the centre. And if I get in, that's what I should do.
I think the job of the mayor is to ensure that the council protects and facilitates. It should protect the vulnerable, it should protect our green space, and it should protect the city from overdevelopment. It should facilitate businesses to help them to do their job. It should facilitate transport around the city. And most importantly, it should listen to all of the people in Bristol. If you agree with me, vote for me as mayor.
It seems almost unthinkable that about 40 years ago, councillors were considering filling in this whole stretch of water to make an urban motorway. But now, as Bristol looks to its future, many are agreed that the new mayor's got to have clear ideas and a strong personality to make things happen.
Well, far from being a concrete motorway, the docks are now a jewel in the city's crown. It's where Boris Johnson came on a recent visit to the city while he was on the campaign trail. I asked him if he had any tips for the new mayor.
I think the key thing for a big city mayor is to remember that you do have very substantial powers. Certainly we do in the London mayoralty, but your job also is to represent all of your constituents, all of the city, and to put it up the agenda, put Bristol issues up the national agenda.
Piffling compared to your powers.
Well, I'm not certain that is the case. I think that the Bristol mayor will have considerable powers over transport, and these are policy areas which matter hugely to local people. It's right to push ahead with things that will not just generate jobs and growth in Bristol in the short term, but be of huge advantage for years to come for people who live here.
And whoever wins will also have the ear of the Prime Minister, David Cameron, as he told me when I met him inside number 10 Downing Street.
Bristol's now going to have one person they can praise when he or she gets it right, and they can blame when he or she gets it wrong. It will be great for Bristol to bring...
Is that person going to have access to this building and to you?
Yes, absolutely.
And what will you give Bristol in return?
Well, what I will give Bristol in return is a city deal, is say to the new mayor of Bristol, what is it that Bristol most wants? What are the changes you can make to help attract business to the city? What powers and money can we devolve to you to help you do that? And it's going to be much easier when you've got one mayor, one prime minister talking to each other about how we can do the right thing for Bristol, of course.
My vision for Bristol is for a green and an equal city, a joined-up city, a city where we have cheap, reliable public transport, joined-up education with schools, universities, businesses working together, a city where we invest to create jobs. I've worked as a biologist, I've worked for large and small businesses, as a full-time mother, and I'm very good at bringing people together and getting them to act. Vote for me for your first Green Mayor. Vote for me for a joined-up Bristol.
I pledge to build 4,000 homes you can afford to live in and make Bristol a living wage city. We'll get every child off to a good start in life through access to schools close to home, and we will put families first by making sure childcare is flexible and available and reviewing the decision to close our care homes. We'll sort out our public transport system, and we will ensure we get the stadiums and the arena the city needs. This is about building a world-class city. It is about the mayor, but it's also about you. One mayor, 430,000 leaders.
I have the experience and vision to be Bristol's first elected mayor. I have experience as a GP of 30 years, working with families and listening to their problems. I have experience as a councillor, working cross-party, working with other neighbouring authorities and working with government to get the best deal for our city. And I have a vision for Bristol, one where we get jobs and businesses are attracted to the city. I want to get transport for Bristol, where we can take control of the fares, the frequency and the services on our buses. And finally, I want a happier, healthier city where we can live together and bring up our children.
There's a great view from here, the top of Cabot Tower, overlooking one of the most important and beautiful cities in the UK.
Soon, though, the political landscape will change here when the new mayor takes over at the council house just below us here.
The first mayor of Bristol is going to go down in history, but who will it be? We're going to find out very soon.
Well, the city has a long history. Let's hope the best is still to come. Goodbye.
Gonna have to produce a cookery book.
6 teaspoons of peanut butter.
This is the first meeting of the day and you're already bickering. Oh my word. You're being a really bad project manager. Oh, that looks really good.
A disaster, no? A recipe for disaster.
Young Apprentice continues tomorrow at 8 on BBC One and BBC One HD.
Where you going, you're not coming back from.
final series of The Killing starts the 17th of November on BBC 4.
How would you feel about moving? Jobs come up on the coast, up north.
You're an orphanage girl yourself. I suppose you believe that gives you a special insight. Welcome aboard. Crickley Hall was an orphanage in World War II for evacuees.
There are no ghosts in Crickley Hall.
James Herbert's The Secret of Crickley Hall.
It's this house.
Oh, don't get used to it, because we're leaving.
I can't expect you to believe it if you haven't seen it.
Starts Sunday the 18th of November on BBC One and BBC One HD.